So let's start here. Many of you, I think, will be able to relate to this quite well. Peter Drucker, many of you have read, I'm sure, a management guru, although he did not like to be called that. But, you know, I think this quote is one of his best, and I think it's very true. Even small healthcare institutions are complex, barely manageable places. Large healthcare institutions may be the most complex organizations in human history. That's quite a statement from a person who made his living figuring out how to manage organizations. And Peter Drucker admitted that he never really could figure out how a healthcare organization worked. And I would submit to you that we are a large healthcare organization. What he meant when he said this was that you had all the components. You had physicians, you had outpatient care, and you had the inpatient perspective as well. So let's go through this with this as sort of our backdrop of how last year went. You know, this is really kind of a quasi-annual report because our true annual report is calendar year. Of course, this is May, nearly June, so you may see a couple of things sneak in here that are a little bit more this year than they were last year. But again, this is an annual report, so this will encompass much of what we've accomplished over the last year. With deference to Peter Drucker, one of the ways that we really try to manage, govern the organization is to think about three components, and that's safety and quality, the strategic component, and of course the financial component. And I actually put these in this order because for this past year, this was the order of importance that we placed these issues. So under safety and quality, you will all in this room recognize this. As you know, we carefully monitor our event rate as it concerns serious safety events. And these are the numbers as of today as to how many consecutive days we've had in each section of our organization without a serious safety event. So 574 for the hospital, 1,062 for the care centers, and 484 for Catterskill Care. Now, this isn't just an annual project, and in fact, many of our goals and projects are not. This graph is showing you our beginning in 2008, over here, February of 2008, right down to the present. And this is showing you the serious safety event rate. So what you see here is a progression, a downward progression, which is the correct direction in this particular instance, that we want to travel to the point where for the last several months, we've been at what is our target, which is 0. That was our campaign, 0. So we've had 0 serious safety event rates, a rate of 0 over the past several months and for much of 2014. This is something to celebrate because most hospitals, most healthcare organizations can't say this. They can't go that long, and there was a time when we couldn't go that long either. So it demonstrates a lot of hard work by the safety ops team, by the safety coaches, by the physicians, and all of the caregivers that are directly involved in ensuring that patient safety is our top priority. Now, this is something that our staff does get excited about, and I couldn't really stop our slide maker from celebrating it in the final, in this way. Most people were betting I was going to omit that slide. I felt I had to keep it, and everybody recognizes 0 because, again, that was our goal and that's what we've achieved. So something to definitely celebrate when you've had a year like we've had. We don't just look at serious safety events, though. We look at core measures, we look at patient satisfaction, and for this year we focused on these particular assessments by our patients, of us. And you know, if you look at any of these, for example, communication about medications, very important to care, very important for the patient's wellness once they're discharged, very important to keeping them from being readmitted. Well, in 2013, we were at 55.60%, and we went up to 59.1%, meaning our patients felt that they had a better understanding and were communicated more effectively to with regard to their medications in 2014. These are hard-fought percentage points. The 1 percentage point here is a market improvement. And so we're very proud of this accomplishment. And actually, we met these goals this year that we set out for calendar year 2014 to meet. So again, something else to celebrate and be happy about. The other segment that I spoke about earlier that we divide the organization into is strategy. And I would tell you that we probably spent more time in the boardroom relative to strategy for not only 2014, but also 2013, as we tried to constantly assess as a board and as a management team where the industry was heading and frankly where we should be heading. So we tend to simplify things, and we don't want everybody to know our trade secrets. So what I must tell you here is, here's our overarching strategy. We constantly have to be thinking about how we will position CMH for success. That really is the overarching goal. And while a lot of healthcare organizations are wondering how they'll survive or if they'll survive, we're actually talking about how we're going to thrive. We believe that as the healthcare market transforms, we'll transform with it, and we're very optimistic about the future, and that's been the focus of our strategic planning. One of the strategic components that has been a several-year-long process has been to develop ourselves as a health system. And you heard us say many times over the past several years, we're not just a hospital anymore. We're a health system, and truly we are. To that end, to be regarded as a health system, you have to look like a health system. And just in 2014 alone, we made sure that we continued to do that along with our strategic plan. And we initiated outpatient psychiatry, which we did not have prior to 2014, in both counties, in the towns of Hudson and Catskill. We also expanded our inpatient psychiatry unit from 18 to 22 beds due to the need. We also opened up a new pediatric service in the Green Medical Arts building in Catskill. And we also improved and opened up a new open MRI service at Green Medical Arts, which is doing incredibly well. We also made sure that our facilities measure up to the services that we provide. And to that end, we relocated our bone and joint or orthopedic service, as well as our Jefferson Heights primary care practice, to brand new space, newly renovated space at the Green Medical Arts building. And one more quick note about the Green Medical Arts building. That's a continuing process whereby we purchased a building that has now become the hub in Greene County for healthcare again, and that was part of our goal as well. So in 2.5 years, we've really taken that from some services to numerous services, and there will be more as we go on. The last item here is a fairly new one. We started on this project actually in 2013, worked on it during 2014, and very recently, we were approved through a CON process to build a new rapid care facility, much like the one we have in Valencia, actually in Copake on Mountain View Road. And we have gone so far as to develop an architectural rendering of it. This is actually an existing building, and this is the site of the Copake Rescue Squad, thus the garage doors. A couple of our critics have said, gee, what about those garage doors on your new medical office building? Well, we can't do away with those. There's ambulances in there, and that's actually going to be the hub in Copake for various types of medical care. We're also going to move our primary care practice to that building once we open up the rapid care facility. Continuing with strategy, we set out, 18, 20 months ago to think about the fact that we wanted to develop and then execute some type of an affiliation strategy. And we literally started with a clean plate, just an empty canvas, so to speak, and started to think about what we needed and where we wanted to go. And that led to us developing not only the type of affiliation that we wanted to have someday, but also who we wanted to affiliate with. And I will tell you, there were many suitors coming to us and saying, gee, we'd love to be your partner. Now, why did they want to be our partner? It's because of our geographic coverage. It's because we had developed ourselves as a health system. It's because of the way that we actually were able to deliver services across Columbia and Greene County. And ultimately, we decided on Albany Medical Center. Again, we decided on the structure for that affiliation as well. In July of 2014, we signed a letter of intent with Albany Medical Center, which you're well aware of, that we announced. And just now in April of 2015, we actually signed what we refer to as the definitive document, the actual affiliation agreement itself with Albany Medical Center. So that was executed, and that allows us to go forward now with the regulatory process. which will include a certificate of need as well as a Hart-Scott-Rodino filing to the Federal Trade Commission. So both of those aspects are now in process, and we're somewhere probably 12 months plus or minus to actually being able to consummate the affiliation. We also had to look ahead to the future and look at our various business sectors. And with respect to our long-term care service and Catterskill Care, we could see pretty plainly as we looked ahead that a standalone nursing home was going to have a very difficult time surviving, let alone thriving into the future. And we determined that you really needed to be part of a multiple nursing home type of system. And we went out and once again looked for the proper partner and found Premier Healthcare. And Premier now is under contract to have the property transferred to them. They're also having a local presence here. They're also under contract with Pine Haven, the Columbia County-run nursing home as well. And they already have a facility just across the border in Massachusetts, about this same latitude. Part of our strategy as well involved thinking about how people think of us. And we determined that there was a need, as we remake Columbia Memorial into a health system, to also rebrand it. And so we endeavored to begin that process as well. And as you know, we now use the name Columbia Memorial Health, a bit more indicative of what we're actually doing. And we're still CMH, but just not CMH with the emphasis on the hospital. And to that end, we began a campaign. I think some of you have seen this, and I guess there's some notes around me now that speak to fresh care. And that fresh care is delivered how often? This is kind of a quiz question. Yes, it is. It's delivered daily. Very good. Bill, the campaign is working. I can attest to that. It is daily. So fresh care delivered daily. It's grown on me quite a bit, actually. So we didn't exactly buy a bridge, but we actually have the exclusive rights to the bridge in many ways for a long period of time. And we're going to use the bridge. You know, it's a bit symbolic. It sort of connects our two counties, and it's a way for us to talk about Columbia Memorial Health. And it's a way for us to talk about health in general, because remember, we're not just here anymore to only make people well when they're sick. We're here to keep them well and actually make them more well if that's possible. The third sector it's an important one, right? No margin, no mission. It's the financial sector. And we do have some numbers that we were very pleased to be able to field this year, and I think they're worth going through. Our total net patient revenue was up $8.1 million. That's on a relative budget of about $150 million. That's a 6.31% increase, so that shows growth, which is a good thing. But better than growth is showing improvement at the operating level. And we improved by $1.6 million at the operating level, 2013 compared to 2014. The care center financials alone had an improvement of $900,000, nearly $1 million. And that's an organization now, an enterprise, that is $50 million. So all of our physician services combined bring in $50 million, a fairly large corporation in and of itself. Although it's not separate, it certainly could be. It's a very big organization. We had a bottom line positive number on our consolidated financials. That's after consideration of Catterskill Manor, which is a senior housing facility that we operate in Catskill. That takes a little bit from our positive because it tends to be a negative because of depreciation. But nonetheless, we finished at a positive 781, and it's the best financial performance for CMH in the last 5 years. So one of the things I like to do, because I think you should all be able to pat one another on the back a bit, is sometimes, you know, we go through the audit committee and the finance committee, and the amount of numbers that we look at, mind-numbing is not an adequate description. And by the time you leave, you don't even really know what you learned. Vince does, Brian does, but some of us go out scratching our heads with a bit of a headache. We did some good things in this year's financials. We increased cash, and we also improved our debt coverage ratio. So that means that we're building a stronger balance sheet so that we have more options down the road as we look ahead to the future. Another reason why we're optimistic. So that said, I want you to leave with only a couple points when it comes to the finances. And these are the only things you really need to know about 2014, calendar year 2014. We improved our operating results by $1.6 million. We improved our bottom line, 2013 to 2014, by $756,000. That was the improvement. And it was our best financial performance in the last 5 years. If you only remember the last line, I will be very, very pleased. So we did this, and you know, sometimes people sort of get confused, for-profit versus not-for-profit. We're, of course, a not-for-profit. So we do want to make a little bit of money. We don't want to lose money, you know, no margin, no mission, but we don't want to make a lot of money either. Our job is to put that money back into the organization, back into care, back into the community. That is our mission. So when we make a little bit of money, and $780,000 on $150 million is a little bit of money, but when we make a little bit, we did it just right, because all the rest of the money went back into the organization. So you might ask, where did it go? So in human resources alone, and I don't even know if Kelly Sweeney would really be able to quote this number if I were to ask her right now, because I had to look it up myself, Kelly, don't feel bad. But the difference 2013 to 2014 was $4 million more in investment in salary and benefits, and that's largely because of the expansion of services that we provided to the community. We also put back $5 million into technology and facility improvements, and again, that was just in calendar year 2014, and we do that just about every year, and in fact, over the last 10 years, tallies up to $62 million. These are a few of our updated numbers for 2014, and there's a couple of impressive ones here. It's very impressive to me that 437,000 people walk through our doors for outpatient services every year, or at least in 2014. That's a new high. And you know, we like to remember the fact that about 65% of our overall revenue comes from the outpatient sector, not the inpatient sector. Once again, making us more of a system than a hospital. The other number to focus on as well is this 8.3 million. You know, we provide that much in unreimbursed care to our communities, okay? So that's our contribution back. That truly is a contribution. And this number down here, the $900,000 excess revenue over expenses, at the very end of the day, not having the Catterskill Manor considered, that's about where we ended up. So we can't look at these results and not just take a moment to remember how it all gets done. There are about 1,200 full-time equivalent staff that make this happen every day, and they are staff of every manner and description. Doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, billers, accountants, housekeepers, dietary people, you name it, we have them. And that's why we're a complicated organization. We have to do not only the care, but the business side of the house as well. We get incredible help from volunteers, and they give us support services, they fundraise for us. The executive committee of the auxiliary is here tonight, which I'm very glad to see. The amount of hours that are essentially donated to us that replace staff time is incredible. And they also do a great deal of fundraising for us as well. So again, they're volunteers. In fact, everybody in here is going to be a volunteer, which I also want to highlight. The second show provides us with quite a bit of donations, and the auxiliary works very closely with them, hand in hand, really, to help provide us that. So it's really a community. You know, the saying that it takes a village, it takes a community to run a healthcare system like ours, and that's what we see happening here. We also have volunteers on the foundation board, our champion fundraisers, very effective every single year, and they're a board of volunteers as well. And then, of course, the Columbia Memorial Board of Trustees, that in this day and age, to be a board member in healthcare, the word that comes to mind is courageous. And I recently saw a speaker who couldn't utter that word enough times to come out from whatever your field of expertise is and be a board member for a not-for-profit organization in this type of time of change and make courageous decisions is an apt description of what these folks do. We also have a new term, we call them CBOs now in DISRIP language. There are community-based organizations, and there are many rescue squads and various services that operate in conjunction with us on many levels. So these are all the folks that get it done. Another reason why it's a complex organization. In any given year, we do receive many accolades and win many awards. And I just took a few select ones out just to show you. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list at all, because these come from sort of different sectors or areas, if you will. We did secure a lease agreement with the Veterans Administration for 10 years over at Green Medical Arts, another service we will add. You know, that's a vote of confidence. These folks have very high expectations, about a 100-page application, and we were awarded the contract. We made great gains with obstetrical improvement this year, and we were also lauded for some of our results as part of the Partnership for Patients, so we received an award there. We also received the Gold Stroke Award, which means that you've met certain metrics for performance when it comes to taking care of stroke. So this is one that we're very, very proud of and we've worked very hard for. And the business community recognized us as well when the Chamber of Commerce gave us the Thanks Award for community improvement. So I'm almost finished with the presentation. And I wanted to talk about curves for a minute, because back to our simple philosophy, you know, we want to thrive and not just survive, and we want to stay ahead of the curve. That's another major component of what we want to do. Easier said than done in this day and age, and with all of the change that's happening in healthcare. And we've talked about curves a little bit too much, I think. Those folks in the boardroom and some folks in management circles, we hear about the first curve. That's, you know, healthcare reform. Now we're hearing about the second curve. Then we hear about bending the cost curve. And I saw a speaker last week who said, oh no, we don't need to bend the cost curve. We need to break the cost curve. So we're going to be talking about curves for a long time. Truly, we only know one thing. We want to stay ahead of the curve. And in thinking about the curve and thinking about the future, we have to imagine where we want to be and what we want to be and how we're going to get there. And, you know, one thing that's become apparent to us as we sort of go through this healthcare reform, the number of patients coming to us has not been diminished. In fact, it is increasing. The inpatient care we're providing is not diminishing at all. It is also increasing. And we think we're going to need more resources as time goes on to accommodate that for the community. Once again, the reason we're working on a strong balance sheet. So that said, sort of looking ahead and imagining the future a bit, this is an architect's idea of what our campus could possibly look like to accommodate some of the issues that we have now and some of the issues we'll continue to have. So this is Prospect Street right here, if you can't see that. And this is about at the current site of the Administrative Services Building. And this is intended to be a new parking garage, which is built into the hill. This is sort of an elevated view. 300-car parking garage, which I think most of you would agree would solve some problems that we have. And this structure above is a 60,000-foot outpatient building that could be many services. We certainly have some ideas. This is a walkway or a bridge across Prospect, which then connects to what would be a brand new patient pavilion. This patient pavilion, the way it's depicted here, has 90 private rooms and would provide 90 med-surg beds for our inpatient needs going forward. So this is not exactly just a dream. These are achievable goals for us over the next few years. And you know, you don't achieve any goals unless you have them. But we think this is how our campus could look. And I think you can see over here the Kellner Wing, and you can see the main hospital, and of course the MOB, just to get an idea of what that looks like. And just to make sure you had a good sense of what it did look like, the last airplane that flew over, miraculously, we had this stuff superimposed right on the campus. So that's what it would look like from the air. So again, this is just a concept, just a rendering, but something to think about and a way to think about how our campus and how our future could very well look in the next few years. So thank you very much, and thanks for coming for the annual meeting.